Government agencies are undertaking an unprecedented period of IT and application modernization. Efforts to effectively collect, manage, and analyze vast amounts of data, combined with needing to operate securely in today's multi-cloud operating environment, have placed tremendous challenges on agency officials to manage IT modernization initiatives. I'm Wyatt Cash with Scoop News Group, and here to talk about that today is Justin Fanelli, Technical Director for Program Executive Office for Digital Enterprise Services at the Department of Navy. Justin, thank you so much for joining us. And let me start by asking, what would you say are the biggest challenges that you're facing in managing the rising volume of data while also trying to make data more accessible to a broader range of stakeholders?
Yes. Thanks for having me, Wyatt. And it really is the golden age of data. There's more than anyone could have imagined at this point. And that's what we've been waiting for. So our challenge is translating data into outcomes. And for the longest time, we've moved too slowly. And this is our chance to really get after it and turn IT from a cost center into an obvious value provider. We know that we've had beacons of light, but ultimately, data right now is helping us to make better decisions faster. And the way that it's doing that is based on context. So as we get really good at that lower bar of the pyramid for the hierarchy of needs, we can spend less time looking, searching, organize, and more time steel on target, focusing on making better decisions. Overall, one thing that we've seen get real traction with us is by organizing from a discipline framework perspective around outcome-driven metrics. And so by using our world-class alignment metrics, we can not only benchmark, but we can focus our data into efforts that translate to better outcomes, better deliverables for our end users.
So I'm curious to know as well, how are you approaching the demands for data to move more freely and dynamically across cloud environments?
Totally. So the Dawn's goal on data is to securely move data from anywhere to anywhere, which means it becomes invisible to the user. We just want a friction-free place where folks can serve the reason that they signed up to be in the military, the reason that they signed up for that civil service. We want to fade into the background. I'm from the school of make IT boring. And so we're doing a decent amount of that right now. There are three ways. First one is focus on the basics. So make sure that our in-cloud activities work. One of our success stories recently is Operation Flank Speed. And so we're getting that across different devices, across different domains, much more smoothly and friction-free than we were before. And we're hearing from our users. And as we do reps and improve that experience, we're getting traction. We're figuring out ways to build on that data, even on the user-fed side. Two is federate instead of move. So we all know those data and IT tree huggers, or box huggers rather. They want to move things. They want to own data. That doesn't always make sense. There's cost in transit and there's cost in storage. So where we can federate and make sure that things can be in their authoritative sources, but we're getting the goodness from the data, we want to do that. So part of that is based on number three, which is really press our vendor partners for, is the value proposition there for one cloud versus another? And so as we look at, does it make sense to use 2 clouds or 3 clouds for this? We want it to be crystal clear. We're better at our data. They're very good. These vendor partners are very good at telling their data stories. So we want them to show us why the return on investment is there and why it makes sense. The last one in general is we want to attack those gaps, make sure that if there are risks or seams or technical difficulties that we're piloting against that. We have some really good partner stories on that, especially across threat detection and some exciting things in FinOps.
Thank you for outlining those points. They make a lot of sense. I'd like to ask next, where are you focusing your efforts to protect the security of all that data, especially, again, as it's moving between various IT systems, both internally and, systems operated by other entities?
For 25 years, this has been a trade-off between security and performance. And zero trust is the first time that I personally have seen a win-win come together, where we're seeing performance and security both improved by the same sets of solutions. So we've partnered really strong with the DoD CIO, the stand-up of the Zero Trust Portfolio Management Office, and doubled down on, if we can be more granular on protecting the data, it opens new doors and doesn't increase risk. It actually lowers risk. So as much as we can double tap with our partners, and Operation Flank Speed is just one example, there are several others. We're going down a path of conceptual SIPR 2.0 and some other things. But in general, as we work towards this, we've been really pleasantly surprised with our defensive results as it relates to protecting data, which opens up doors. Ultimately, the productivity is the goal. And if security isn't done well, it will slow down productivity. By being proactive and investing upfront, we're living in the show me state. We're all in Missouri right now as it relates to data and security and going forward.
Well, there's certainly no shortage of challenges in the technology space, but one of them that's intriguing is how rapidly technology is changing. And so I'm curious, how are you trying to strike a balance between achieving economies of scale and preserving flexibility and choice as you move forward with IT modernization?
1000%. So we get by with a lot of help from our friends. We wouldn't want it to go slower, but we can't do it all. So what we've done within my PEO, and we've shared it with others, and there are other adopters, is we've broken it down into 4 horizons. And we've said, hey, we know that production is king, but what are we doing in terms of Horizon 2 piloting? And what are we doing in terms of Horizon 3, using our buying power and our influence power to say, here are the things that we really need. Industry has been incredibly responsive to say, hey, if you can point us at a target, we'll put our IRAD, our internal research and development dollars on that. Same with USD R&E, the other side of DoD. If we're doing research to solve a problem and we can transition that to a PEO, we're volunteering to say, if you have something that's ready to solve those, we don't have to buy retail. We can partner with you longer term and solve these. So the answer to your question is transparency is number 1. Modern service delivery, so think service-oriented architecture or connecting dots or staying modular and disciplined from day one is number 2. And then piloting with friends where they can, and partners where they can do a lot of the risk reduction. And so we're at a pretty high technology readiness level and ready to deploy because we've been looking at the problem for years.
Well, lastly, I'm intrigued by some of the things you're saying about working with industry, and I'm curious, how do you view the state of relations between agencies and technology partners these days compared to the past? And, have they gotten stronger and more productive, or and what would also help unlock greater value in those relations?
Definitely. Yeah. So we've definitely seen strides. We have more people at the table, but I think if we're really thinking thoughtfully about this, there's some people who are performing better than ever, and we have a little bit more data, and so we know that there are some people who have an opportunity to kind of change the way that they're doing it. And if feedback sets us free, then we can turn this K curve into a hockey stick. So ultimately, where partners have said, hey, let's lead with, here are the answers, here's how we can show and translate what we're doing into a value proposition in our terms, then it's working out. One thing the government can always do better is clarify our needs. And so I used to work with, we all have 2,000-page requirements document. Thankfully, we're doing a lot more agile. Agile is best if it's clearly depicting our vision and how we're measuring success. And so just in recent cases, we've had we show our 5 goalposts for here's exactly what we're trying to achieve. And now we have vendors at talks and at conferences coming up and saying, here's how we can meet those needs specifically. The best integration is no integration. That doesn't happen very often, but where we can limit those activities and show here's how we get to value in 3 months instead of 3 years, stay modular and keep competing, then we're absolutely there. So I'd say what we can do better to unlock some of that value is be clearer and incorporate feedback from our vendors and get that feedback as specific as possible. We're doing that. And where vendors can be responsible, ask tough questions, not just give us canned briefs, and make sure that the match is one for one fit, and then lean all the way in, because we're using player coaches to go further, faster, and we need it more than ever right now based on what's happening in the world.
It's encouraging to hear, and that's some great advice as well. So, well, Justin Fanelli, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to share your insights on tackling the challenges of ever-growing data demands in the federal government, and particularly at the Department of Navy. So thank you for joining us.